On what Ismael Mohammed of the festival announced as components of the festival's program, which includes venues, participants, shows and productions, and how their program has grown. We are now joined by Christina Kennedy herself. Well, Christina, good morning, welcome.
Thank you, Sam.
Your initial thoughts on Wednesday when the announcements were made about some of the changes, some of how the event has grown over the last 40 years?
Sam, I must say I was very excited by this year's program. I think as a journalist covering the festivals, you can get a bit jaded. But this year they've really pulled out all the stops. I think to celebrate the 40 years of the National Arts Festival, but also to celebrate the 20 years of democracy in the country, with a very exciting program that is clearly going to look forward for the country and the arts, but also look backwards and be introspective about how far we have come as a country, but also the challenges that still face us through the arts.
I can only imagine that in itself must be an interesting program, because you want to show where we've come from, where we are and where we've grown. So with that in mind, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, certainly on the theatre program, as Richard said, the young artists are always something to look forward to. And this year's Standard Bank Young Artist for Drama, Greg Homan, is putting together a very interesting piece called Oedipus at Kunu, not Kunu, but actual Kunu, which I presume is perhaps the Khoi pronunciation, whereby it seems like he's taking the Sophocles play and he's actually transposing it into the current day and using Nelson Mandela, as a sort of Oedipus figure, an elderly Oedipus figure looking back on his life and the country and how far it's come. So that, I think, is going to be fascinating. Also, Aubrey Sikabi, who's the artistic director of the State Theatre in Pretoria, he is devising a musical around the Marikana massacre. So, I mean, that to me seems like a very interesting juxtaposition, because when you think of musicals, you think of joyous, you think of celebration and upbeat music. And clearly, the Marikana incident is anything but.
Yeah, it's a very somber thing.
It is very somber. So it will be interesting to see how he interprets this very serious and still very fresh and painful event in our country's history through the medium of the arts, and helps audience to perhaps make sense of it. And it's based on a book by a number of journalists who actually covered Marikana. So, there is a very solid grounding and an eyewitness account grounding to this particular work. So that is going to be another highlight. And yes, I think, the introduction of Afrikaans theatre to the main program, I think, is very significant.
And important, actually.
And important, yes, because Martinus Passon is bringing his production of Macbeth, called Macbeth Slapeloos, Sleepless Macbeth. Which was a huge hit at the Art Club Festival in Potchefstroom last year and won virtually every award that was going. He's bringing that to festival this year. And it also has very interesting resonances and parallels with what is happening in the country today in terms of leadership and those questions around leadership today.
Christina Kennedy, how do we promote the Fringe better?
That is a massive ask, because you've got some 400 productions. A lot of them are by professional artists, some by semi-professionals, and they have to try and get their voices heard among the clamour and the cacophony of all the other productions. A lot of them don't have budgets for marketing. This is where I think social media is going to come in very, very strongly and very importantly during the festival, because artists actually have to learn how to promote their own works through innovative means, whether it's perhaps a sample performance on site up at the monuments or in the streets, free performances of their works, to try and lure people and spread that word of mouth. They don't have the budget for physical posters and things like that. They actually need to come up with more innovative means. And that's really what artists today have to do in South Africa, because budgets are pretty tight.
15 seconds, your thoughts on the music component this year?
Oh, wow, it's amazing. As Richard said, the classical music is going to be great. Jazz, we've got Hugh Masekela. Rock, we've got Arno Carstens and Francois van Cooke, yes. And what's very interesting is that we're going to have two multiple SAMA nominees, Matthew Mole and Nakane Ture, who are hot young newcomers, and they are going to be performing, and I think that is going to be an absolute highlight and great for younger audiences as well.
Christina Kennedy, we leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me. That is Christina Kennedy, a freelance journalist, helping us unpack this year's program at the National Arts Festival, which will be held, if you don't know it by now, it's from the 3rd to the 13th of July in Grahamstown. We'll take an ad break.